Hello, everybody. Hello. This is Gerald Salenti, and it's 4 days before Christmas, and my true love came to me. And it's Dr. Andrew Napolitano, a real man of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Judge, thanks for being here today. And it's Christmas time, and again, nothing to do about religion, but just about what Christmas is being celebrated about. And you wrote another wonderful article that'll be out tomorrow on about Jesus Christ. So how about a little rundown on it?
Well, hi, Gerald. It's always a pleasure to be with you, my dear friend. I wrote the article because people in America have substituted Jesus by the government. And to half of America, that's the half that works for, sells to, or receives benefits from the government. The government is their God, and they're willing to surrender their freedom to the government in return for the government paying them, paying their compensation, paying their pensions, paying for their services, or giving them money, which it has taken from the rest of us. This, of course, destroys initiative and it destroys personal freedom, because when the government is your source of subsistence, you are afraid to challenge or disagree with it. Jesus came to set us free from sin and free from the yoke of an overbearing government. So the column, which is called "What If Christmas Is for Real?" argues that the essence of Christmas is Christ among us, which we accept or reject by the exercise of freedom. But when people allow the government to take care of them, they give up their freedom and their lives are useless.
A wonderful man and woman, John and Nisha Whitehead, also put out an article this week as well about what if Jesus
is a terrorist.
I'm sorry?
If Jesus were alive today, they'd call him a terrorist.
Yeah. If Jesus was born 2,000 years later. And they go on to say, that rather than having armed guards capture Jesus in a public place, government officials would have ordered a SWAT team to carry out a raid on Jesus and his followers, complete with flashbang grenades and military equipment. There are upwards of 80,000 such SWAT team raids carried out each year, many on unsuspecting Americans who have no defense against such government invaders, even when such raids are done in error.
Let me tell you about John Whitehead. John is not only a fabulous defender of the Bill of Rights, he is the country's foremost authority on police excess and the excessive use of force by police. Now, I'm startled by that number, but if John says it's 80,000, I believe it. These are so common today that you don't even read about them anymore. The only ones you read about are where the police kill somebody, like that case in Kentucky, where the person, they raided the wrong house, as frequently happens, and they shot through the door and killed a woman who was a government employee herself. These things happen all the time. Why? Because the courts have dropped their guard on the Fourth Amendment. Last week, you and I talked about holes in the Constitution, whereby the government has taken the FBI and turned it into a domestic surveillance agency. And it uses our iPhones to hear our conversations, to track us when we travel and the phone is with us. And it downloads information about us that is in there. And when the courts allow that to happen or look the other way, the same courts look the other way at these violent attacks by the police. And then they say you have to give the police the benefit of the doubt. You have to let them exercise their discretion, and you can't sue them. They have immunity. So the concept of qualified immunity, giving the police immunity when they use excess force, is one of the worst judicial creations created by judges in the history of the country, because it allows those cops to use all this force to destroy whatever they want, kill whoever they want, walk away with nothing and say, oh, sorry, it was the wrong house. Or, we're looking for a couple of sticks of marijuana, but we destroyed your house and killed your children in the process. I'm not exaggerating. John is an expert, Whitehead is an expert on this. And he's also, as I said, a terrific defender of human liberty in the face of government excess, not just police.
You said, the courts, these aren't courts, they're political clowns.
Well, a lot of them have become politicized. There's no question about that. And I'm sorry to say most of the politicized judges are Republicans and Republican appointees who will give the government and the police whatever they want. When it comes to the Fourth Amendment, when it comes to anything in the in having to do with civil liberties, it is the liberals on the Supreme Court that have civil liberties right. It's not the conservatives. Sam Alito is my boyhood friend, and we're still friends today, even though we disagree on just about everything. We agree on abortion, but Sam never met a government procedure that he didn't like and couldn't support. And that mentality is not what James Madison intended when he wrote the Bill of Rights.
Well, again, you look back to that other guy, though, that not a Supreme Court, but the one in New York that's also a friend of yours, that wouldn't let this guy, the people that were being tried for crimes, wouldn't free them unless they got vaccinated.
Correct. Made up judicial rule. I'll give you bail and back. In fact, you don't even need bail because I know who you are. I trust you to come back here on your own, called ROR, released on your own recognizance. But I'm not going to do it unless you put an experimental chemical into your vein first, which violates federal law, state law, and a treaty, the Nuremberg protocols, to which the United States is a party.
Yeah, and that's a liberal, right? That's a Democrat.
Yes.
Yeah. No, it's a crime syndicate that people call a government. And this is exactly, if Jesus was born today, it'd be no different than the Roman Empire.
You're right. Well, today we have the American Empire, which does the same thing as the Romans did. The Romans were probably more efficient. It claims it's spreading freedom and prosperity. In reality, it's spreading violence and destruction and death. The new $850 billion defense bill, now the law, which we discussed last week, finances 900 American military installations outside the United States. The $1.7 trillion government spending bill, which the Congress will pass before Christmas. So in the next 2 days, after they give Vladimir Zelensky a standing ovation at a speech through a joint session in Congress tonight, Gerald, includes another $40 billion in aid to Ukraine. That's on top of the $60 billion already. $100 billion in aid to Ukraine. Much of it cash that will never be accounted for. Stop, Chris.
And 63% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. The streets are filled with homeless people, and they're sending over $100 billion to Ukraine to keep bloodying the killing fields.
Because Joe Biden says we'll support you for as long as it takes. That has caused our friends, Colonel Doug McGregor and Scott Ritter, to wonder if this is going to become another Vietnam. I mean, what happens when the Secretary of State and the Secretary of Defense — Chris is getting a little rambunctious here, my dog.
That's all right. Yeah, bring him on the show.
He wants to see you through the camera.
Yeah, bring him on the show.
Wants to see your image. Chris, come on up. Worry that Joe Biden decides it's time to send the 40,000 American troops that are right at the Polish-Ukraine border east across that border, along with 90,000 Polish troops. Can the president do that on his own? Sadly, under the law, he can for 90 days, totally on his own. It's a
So under
perversion.
the law. Under the
Perversion.
law. Some crap they make up.
Correct.
Under the law.
Correct. It's
Under our dictates.
Correct. It's an absolutely horrific law called the War Powers Resolution.
Call
Nixon.
call the bullshit law, shove it down your throat. Let's call it the proper name.
You're exactly right. It violates treaties. It violates the Constitution. Nixon vetoed it. Congress enacted it over Nixon's veto. And every president since Nixon has used it, including Ronald Reagan. And, well, of course, we know what the Bushes did. So it doesn't matter what political party you're in. Every president has used it because it makes the military a presidential toy to use as they see fit for 90 days. Barack Obama took this one step further and used the CIA's secret army as a presidential toy. That does not have a time limit on it. That doesn't have the 90-day time limit that the regular military has. So the presidential powers are totally out of proportion. Joe Biden knows that. If he doesn't know it, his advisors know that. And McGregor and Ritter are saying, you know, when things really get bad, get ready for the 101st Airborne to be parachuting into Kyiv. They'll parachute into Kyiv under the pretext of defending Zelensky, but they're really there to kill Russians and to make World War III, which, as the great Gerald Celente has said, has already started, to make it obvious to the whole world that it has started.
They already announced last week, it's in this week's Trends Journal, Lloyd Austin said they're bringing American personnel, troops, to monitor the weapons that have been brought in. In other words, to help them shoot the weapons that they don't know how to use against the Russians.
So what do they call them? Advisors.
Advisors. Isn't that a nice name?
What did JFK call the first troops that he sent into Vietnam? Which, if he had lived, I don't think we would have had the Vietnam War, but we all know what happened. Advisors. Pretty soon the advisors put on uniforms. Pretty soon the advisors carried weapons. Pretty soon the advisors shot at people. Pretty soon there were 500,000 American advisors. McGregor and Ritter, you and I and the people listening to us now fear that that's what will happen.
It's happened
in Ukraine.
It's happened. We're at war. This is mission creep. You mentioned about Vietnam. Same thing. A little bit at a time, a little bit at a time, a little bit at a time, a little bit at a time. And then there's that false flag thing that happens, like what almost happened. The Russians sent a missile into Poland and killed 2 people. Remember that one?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, it wasn't the Russians. Oh, they killed 2 people? 377,000 Yemenis have been killed by the United States and their pals, the Saudis, according to the United Nations. 377,000. And over half of them are children under 5, according to the United Nations. But that's not news. That's not news. So what we're seeing here is that bringing this guy Zelensky in here, again, our money, of course, to do it, and to keep promoting him like a little hero, it gets the people on the side of the murderous presidential, congressional war hawks. Correct. Oh, and by the way, that $858 billion defense budget, only 11 people in Congress voted against it.
Wow.
Murder, Inc.
Correct. Republicans as bad as Democrats. I could probably name the 11, the handful of libertarians and limited government Republicans, because everybody in the Congress, with the exception of these 11, is afraid of the Defense Department, afraid of the FBI, afraid of the intelligence community, because they know so much about everybody on Capitol Hill.
And because they get paid off that morons and imbeciles call campaign contributions.
Correct.
So they don't want to lose their dough. Yeah. Hey, listen, Judge, thank you so much for being on. And let's have a very Merry Christmas and a happy holiday, everyone. And do all you can to help us fight for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness that's been stolen away from us. And during this Christmas season, this holiday season, do something positive to help those in need. And of course, also consider donating to occupypeace.com, because that's what we're doing. If we don't unite for peace, we're going to die in war, because it's already started. And there's going to be that false flag event where people are going to march off to war, believe it, and we're all going to be annihilated in a nuclear war, because these are satanic, demonic, evil people that are running and ruining our lives. You look at it the way you want. That's the way I see it.
Gerald, God bless you. Merry Christmas to you.
Merry Christmas.